The Titans, 14th last year, 8 wins, 16 losses, minus 168. Their losses for this year, Aaron Clark, Seth Nicotemu, Isaac Liu, Joe Stimson, Tana Boyd, and Keenan Palacia. Their gains, Carter Gordon from rugby, Sam Stephenson, Zane Harrison, Regan. Both of those players have come up from development contracts. Regan Campbell-Gillard from the Eels and Cooper Bye, a trainer trial. Please message me. I think that might be Marcus Bye's son. I have a sneaky – there's not many Byes out there. He spelled B-A-I as well. So if you do know in the comments, let us know. Very excited because he was one of my favourite players growing up. I loved watching Marcus Bye. The Gold Coast Titans, Jakey boy, back to you here. Get us off the mark, and where do you want to go with this Titans lineup? Moving forward.
Yeah, I think that they have a very, very, very strong forward pack this year, kind of thing, and they have Tino back this year, which is a massive in. And so my big point, I guess, is can their forward pack do enough to start to sort of steamroll teams enough that they sort of have that electric, your Jaden Campbells and your AJ Brimsons and whatnot, can they steamroll packs enough that the electricity of those sort of younger and faster players can actually help them win a few games where people probably wouldn't expect it. That's sort of my big talking point. Now, I know that their halves they have Kieran Foran, who obviously isn't the fastest half, but he's a competitor. He brings that experience. You've seen, in a lot of good teams recently, that you don't necessarily need to have two very fast halves to be successful. Usually, you can have one that's very experienced and the other one be kind of that electric. I don't want to bring them up, but the 2023 grand finalists was Ezra Mam and Adam Reynolds. Adam Reynolds is probably one of the slowest players in the comp, unfortunately, but it doesn't necessarily matter if they're experienced and good enough. So I think hopefully the forward pack can kind of just, if they're rotated well enough, can overcome a lot of other teams just by pure brute force.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point because you mentioned it rightly as well. Their attack and their star players, there's no one questioning what they can do in attack. My big question mark for their forward pack is what they can actually do in defense, because I think a lot of people underestimate the impact a poor middle, and I think this has been the Titans' worry for a number of years now, has on the outside backs and that edges when it comes to defense, and just the gaps that it starts to open up, the panic that sets in. They need to make sure that middle is very steely in defense. It's solid. Tino no doubt will help that. Reg will no doubt help that. And then hopefully some of these other players that had to play over minutes last year and extended minutes, what they're normally used to, go back 5 or 10 minutes to their normal stint sizes, and we get a better quality sort of out of those players, because no one's doubting that forward pack on paper. That forward pack on paper is scary. If you're probably rating them, it's probably up there in the top 6 or so of forward packs in this competition. So it's got rep stars galore that should be enough to elevate this team up towards sort of finals football. Like, that should be a realistic expectation for this club this year if they're serious about their football. So, Trav?
I've got an interesting one, and I think it sort of segues slightly from what you guys were saying. You were talking about their attack, right? And how much you like their attack. They only scored 488 points last year. It's the third worst in the competition. So
that's a huge surprise.
Yeah. So, and we spoke about this in their end of year review page around what is surprising about it. What do we actually know of the Titans? Because you both spoke about how good their attack is on paper in terms of their players, yet they only scored 488. Their differential is just immense as well. It's minus 168. So they allowed 656 points last year to only score 488. So I guess to me the question is, what's the identity, and do we truly actually know what the Titans are? Because on paper, as we talk around, that there is a good list. I think there's massive improvement, but really, can they get back to that identity of what they've got to have, what they've got to show? They can't be They can't be the laughing stock of Queensland anymore. And it's funny that we're saying that, because the Dolphins have only been in the competition for 2 years, but we don't say anything like this sort of stuff about the Dolphins to what we say about the Titans. It's incredible. So, and the Titans are in a much better position than the Gold Coast. So there's just so much identity crisis that the Titans have to fix to me for this year, and I really want to see that. However, I counteract my own argument and point there is by saying that Tino comes back. Keeney is a star in the making and fullback. Their edges on both sides I actually really like. Cam Pereira, Brian Kelly, Sammy, and Fafita I think are really good edges. I like what I think David Fafita can do this year. I think Chris Randall will take it another step forward in terms of what he can do, because now he doesn't have to do, as you said, Joel, just patch all the puzzle pieces together and fix everything. He can now just stick to that. I think Jaden Campbell's just got another season under his belt, and off he goes. Another preseason, and off he can go. I think it can be fixed, and I think the part of that I think why I think it can be fixed is I just think RCG can make a big difference to that team in terms of what he might do in his leadership. And I've said it so many times. I still think even in a preview that we're doing here, it was an odd signing for him. But I just think what he can provide in terms of leadership and what he can do in that team is just going to be immense. And then just the monstrous personality that Tino has, to get him back on the park, such a big thing for him. So I think I've been able to counteract my argument for myself, but I think it's important because, I just question their identity.
It's a similar point to what I was going to raise, because I sort of had the Des Hasler era so far, and obviously they had a lot of teething problems, I thought, last year in terms of, and I said this, I remember saying this time last year with our Gold Coast Titans preview, was I was very worried about these two coming together because they're coming from totally different styles of play. Des is so much of that grindy style, where the Titans we've watched and known for so long has just all been about throw everything out the window, do not do any sort of tactical stuff. You just play football. You play like it's the backyard type thing, which it can work, but them two come together to find mutual ground, I thought that struggled a lot last year. And that identity thing that Travis is talking about is, I think, really legit. And I hope they addressed it, because I think that was a genuine big problem for the Titans last year. And maybe Tino coming back as their captain helps that a lot, because he can go, look, boys, this is what we're doing. This is what Des wants us to do. This can work. Des has shown in the past this can work. Let's make sure we're playing this way. And then Reg as well, who's that meat and veg, like we sort of say, and that sort of player. And I think they need both of those players to come back and stick them to a certain path and go, no, this is what we're doing. We don't need to score this set. Let's get ourselves up the field. Let's build pressure and then aim to go the set after. Let's build there, where I just don't feel like there's been too much in terms of maybe their game plans and their discipline to get themselves into those sorts of positions too much and build proper pressure on teams. So hopefully, for a Titans fan's point of view and the competition for the Gold Coast identity, they've established that, because I think that's huge moving forward for the Titans.
I wouldn't mind saying something just on Travising for your last year. Last year they did have obviously a relatively similar team to what they have now, but in the sense that Joel said, like, they did have those teething problems of, like, where do we play AJ? They had Kinney coming up and they're like, well, we can't not do anything with him. He's too good. But same with Jaden Campbell. What do you do with him? And I think they've now had a preseason to kind of go, like, okay, now we have these rising stars who are really electric. Like Jaden, I think I don't know if they're going to keep him in there, but I think he's going to get back to 5'8", because I think he crushed it there when he was there, and I think he should stay there. Kinney's too good at the back. The question still is, what do you do with AJ? I hope they're paying him a lot of money. I think that's a bit too much for 14.
It's my talking point.
Oh, sorry. Well,
okay.
Well, yeah. So he's on a lot, but as long as they can figure out some way to work him in with the rest of the team being sort of set like that, I can see their on paper being a very scary side, because the forward pack, like you just said, like you imagine Regentino up front starting, you have that David Fafita X factor in the second row, and he won't have to be just the only person they go to when they need sort of something to happen. It's not like not just throw to David and hope for the best. it's that idea, I suppose, of like this year that, like Trav said, they have that preseason of kind of going like, okay, we got some new people in last year that we got like your Kenny and stuff. We're like, okay, we might have actually found a home for them. Let's work on these and build these relationships. And I think that you're only going to see improvement based on the addition of Reg, like you said, Trav, as well. But you're only going to see improvement over last year. I think last year's hard to count because you had like your Tanner Boyd there, and what was he doing? Nothing. And Des did the right thing by kind of sticking by him, hoping that he can improve, but he just never did. And so, I think this year, like Foran and Jaden Campbell in the halves would be a really lethal combo. I do.
Well, I feel like Foran has to be the halfback. Like I heard on the radio yesterday, SEN, the Joel and Fletch show, they were talking to Sats and I think Tyrone Peachey filled in for the day because Matty Rogers was sick, but they were mentioning at training. Apparently, AJ's been spending a lot of time at halfback, which I think is crazy.
I've seen heaps of him at the 6.
No, they were saying 7. They were saying 7 with JC. So I just think that's a total mix-up. I don't think they'll work well together at all. And that's why I've got AJ as my talking point, because I just feel like, in a way, is he starting to become a bit of a hindrance to him? Is he starting to become a bit of a headache that they don't really need? Because you've rightly said, like, Keeney for mine will have that one jersey, and rightly so, for years to come. JC's deserved a number of years from now in that 6 jersey. I think he did a very good job last year. They need to just have a backup plan for Foran when he obviously retires, which will probably be after this year. I don't think he can put his body through anymore. He's been an absolute warrior. They got Carter Gordon there as well now, who knows what he can turn into. Maybe he might be the answer post Foran. I'm not too sure, but I don't think AJ's that player either. He can't manage that team. He's more of a give him the ball when he sees something pop up, off he goes. But they've got too many of those players now. And like Trav said, their backline, it's not a poor backline. Like, that's a good backline that I think a lot of teams would, if one of those players came up on contract, they'd be looking to sign him almost straight away. So every time I think, you can't have AJ on, the money's on at 14, even though that's probably his best position there for the Titans. It's just a waste of money. They might get away with it this year, but building that club moving forward and having all the right money in the salary cap and the balance, you've got to start probably shopping him around. Like, and it sounds hard, and I'm not writing him off as he's not a bad player at all. But just for this mix for the Titans, I'm just starting to think more and more it's not going to work.
Out of curiosity, do you think you could see him sort of being that 14 and playing like come on and like do like a 13 role, almost similar to like what Wishart kind of does at the Storm sometimes? Like, not always, but kind of like come on and do that.
My problem was, I think Chris Randall had a great year last year. And let's say Tino hypothetically starts at lock and then moves into the prop rotation when Randall comes on. I would want to keep Randall there because I just think he did a really good job. And I think that has merit to it because it sounds exciting having that guy that has a bit of pace in and around the tight sort of forward pack. I just think Randall really held his own last year, and I'd hate to make him lose minutes, try out something that hasn't been done yet. We don't know if it will succeed.
Fair.
Yeah, I agree with that. Absolutely. Hey, so I've read 4 now, and I'm just looking again while I've been playing. 4 predicted team lists. All of them have AJ Brimson in the 6. 3 of those websites are proper NRL websites. One of them is ESPN, and the 4th one was ESPN with their own peer, Australia ESPN. So 4 of them have AJ Brimson at the 6 and Jaden Campbell at the 7 and Kieran Foran sitting at the 14. Is that not interesting?
That is interesting. I just don't love it. I get it because they got him on so much money, AJ, but he's never been a half, as far as I'm aware. So why they're just throwing him in there because they need to use him.
I don't like it. I don't like. That's a panic in my opinion. That's just making something happen because of money. I feel like that's them saying AJ's on. I don't know. Well, let's throw a figure of 800 out there. Let's say he's on that. That's them. It feels like that's just them trying to say we need to make sure he's playing, starting, and Foran needs to be the game manager. I think he showed last year. He's still got it. He still adds value to that team. He needs to manage that team. He needs to be. They don't need an extra flashy player in that. They need just someone to go, no, we are going to that corner for the next 4 or 5 sets. That is our plan. And that's what Foran can do down to a T. So, yeah, I think AJ would get too excited. I just think he's that type of player, which isn't a bad thing. Again, he's just he'd be a jack in the box, like, no, give me the ball. I'm going now. Like, they need to learn to stop being that team.
Pretty much.
Anyway, let's do our realistic season expectations for the Titans. I was going to say middle of the pack team. I can't look away from that. I feel like they're going to be a middle of the sort of pack team. That could venture numbers wise. Mate, that could be anywhere from 7th to 11th, 12th. It's just a matter of how they balance this team up, how this Des Hasler marriage works. Middle of the pack team, continually fighting. If they stay fit, they can really push for that top 8 berth. But there's a number of teams we can say there's similar about, which is very exciting for this competition. Jake?
Despite all the positive things I have said about them, I don't know what it is. I just call it a hunch. I just have this feeling that they're gonna do better than they did last year, but it won't necessarily. They're not pushing. I don't think they're pushing into the 8. I'm gonna go 11 to 14, somewhere in that range, but possibly higher. I know they came 14th, last year, but they might go up 1 or 2. I don't know why it is, but I just don't see them going that much further.
Mate, that's fair. Trav?
Bottom half of the bottom half.
Fair. That's fair.